Hello, my name is Richard Wayne Collins. I'm standing here at the gravesite of Danny Lynn Stevens, who died while in the custody of the Pasadena Police Department on May 2nd, 1976. He was only 18 years old. There's no official record available about his death, no autopsy report, no investigative files released to the public. All that exists is a short newspaper clipping that says Danny was found hanging in a padded cell with a straitjacket strap after being arrested for suspicion of auto burglary. But I knew Danny, not from the paper. I knew him personally. We grew up in the same neighborhood. A few weeks before he died, we had an altercation. He owed me money, and when he confronted me about it, when I confronted him about it, he hit me across the bridge of the nose with a Zippo lighter. It split my skin open, and I was mad. I didn't let it go. Later, a car was reported stolen and found abandoned and wrecked. I happened to be walking in the area, and Pasadena police picked me up. They questioned me and asked me who was driving. I gave them Danny's name, not because it was true, but because I was still angry. The real driver was another teenage boy who never got caught, and they never even looked for him. A couple of months later, I was in court for an unrelated case, and a detective approached me with a photo of Danny and asked me, "Was this the person driving the car?" I told him no, and that was the truth. Then the detective said something I'll never forget. He said, "Don't worry about it. He's dead anyway." I was stunned. I was a kid. I panicked. So I changed my answer, and I said, "Yeah, that's him." I just wanted him to get away from me. I didn't want anything to do with the detectives. The detective nodded and walked off. That was the end of it. No further questions, no follow-up. That's how I found out Danny was dead. But the story they gave me, that he hanged himself in a padded cell, that never made sense to me. Danny wasn't suicidal. He wasn't schizophrenic. He didn't have a history of serious crime. He was 18 years old and facing a burglary of an auto charge, not a death sentence. Why would someone take their own life over that? And then there's the straitjacket. That just sounds like a convenient explanation to cover up what really happened. What I believe is this. They choked him. They went way too far trying to beat a confession out of him to make him give up someone else's name. And then when it went too far, they had to make it look like something else, because they did the same thing to me. In 1981, 5 years later, I was picked up again by Pasadena Police Department in connection with that same other boy who actually drove the car back in '76. And I was still hanging around with him. Around that time, he tried to rob someone. They found me in the area and grabbed me. And before they even booked me, they took me behind the jail, back by the ramp that leads down toward the basement holding cells. That's the same area where Danny was found dead. They manhandled me. They kicked my feet out from under me, slammed my head on a curb, and choked me so hard that I couldn't talk right for a week. And it left deep bruises from the fingerprints. But I didn't say a word. They screamed at me to give up my partner's name, to tell him who was with me. But I didn't say anything, because after what they did to Danny in '76, I believe they were murderers, and I still do. I stayed quiet. They later caught the other boy, and even though they had no evidence, no eyewitness, no ID, no proof we were together, they forced a confession out of him. He pled guilty to it and wrapped me up in it with a coerced witness confession to say I was with him. One officer even testified that he had seen me and the other boy together the day before, as if that somehow proved I was part of the crime. That's not justice. That's speculation. They took it to trial and lost. No, I took it to trial and lost. They gave me a life sentence and put me away for good, but it was reversed on the appeal. It was reversed on a technical violation thing, and it really pissed me off, and it really pissed Pasadena off, I'm sure. That's the whole story and Danny's case. Like so many others, it was swept away with a 2-sentence summary in the newspaper, but I never forgot. I've carried that memory of that moment and the regret of providing his name to the Pasadena police for almost 48 years. That's why I'm filing a Texas Public Information Act request for every record related to Danny Stevens' death. The jail logs, the arrest report, the autopsy, if one was ever done, anything that still exists, because people need to know the truth. And Danny's not the only one. In that same jail in 1981, the same year I was arrested and choked, Willard Russell Constantine was also allegedly hanged himself in custody. That makes 2 deaths by strangulation in that facility. Both ruled suicides, both unexplained, and both surrounded by silence. Until I see those records, until the city of Pasadena produces actual documentation of what happened to Danny Stevens, I will continue to believe the Pasadena police killed that kid. Because the burden of proof, the burden is on them to explain. Adding to my skepticism of his death, ruled a suicide, even if it appears on autopsy reports, is the history of Harris County's first chief medical examiner, Joseph Jezimnik. He was involved in controversial cases where initial rulings of suicide were later overturned, notably in the 1979 Waynesworth family murders. He ruled the deaths of murder-suicide, but further investigation revealed it was a murder-for-hire plot, and he publicly apologized, but offered no explanation on how he could have been so wrong. Unfortunately, the pattern of deaths didn't stop there. In 2007, Pedro Gonzalez Jr., a 51-year-old man, died in Pasadena police custody. He was arrested on suspicion of public intoxication, and according to reports, was subject to knee and elbow strikes by police officers during the arrest. An autopsy revealed that he suffered 8 broken ribs, 8, one of which punctured his lung, leading to his death. Despite the severity of his injuries, the officers involved were acquitted of all criminal charges. And in 2015, another tragic incident occurred in the Pasadena jail involving Mark Oswald, a 63-year-old man arrested for public intoxication. Surveillance footage reportedly showed Oswald slipping in a cell, breaking his leg severely. Despite his visible distress and pleas for assistance, he was left unattended for hours. When medical help was finally summoned, Oswald's condition had deteriorated significantly, leading to his death 4 days later due to complications from the injury. His family filed a federal civil rights lawsuit alleging neglect and mistreatment by jail staff. These cases, Lynn Stevens in 1976, Willard Russell Constantine in 1981, Pedro Gonzalez Jr. in 2007, and Mark Oswald in 2015, highlight a concerning pattern of custodial deaths in Pasadena. Each instance raises serious questions about the treatment of individuals in custody and the accountability of law enforcement agencies when they are found dead.